It seems straightforward. Stricter immigration rules, like building a wall or more border patrol, should reduce immigration. That was the logic behind Brexit. If we make it harder to cross the border, fewer people will try. Makes sense, right? But what if that logic is completely wrong? What if, in reality, stricter immigration policies end up causing more immigration instead of less? Politicians and policymakers promised the British public that Brexit would reduce immigration, that they could take back control and secure the country's borders. The science behind migration tells a very different story, showing that stricter borders often drive migration in unexpected directions. Instead of reducing migration, Brexit might have done exactly the opposite of what was promised. But first, let me ask you this. What do Suriname, the UK, and the US have in common when it comes to migration? History has a way of repeating itself. Brexit isn't the first time a country has tried to limit immigration, only to see those efforts fail spectacularly. Take the case of Suriname in the 1970s. Before independence in 1975, Surinamese citizens were also Dutch citizens, free to move to the Netherlands. But when the Dutch government wanted to reduce migration, they thought independence was the answer. The idea was simple: sever ties, close the borders, and stop migration. But here's the twist. The announcement caused panic. Fearing future restrictions, tens of thousands of Surinamese citizens rushed to emigrate before the borders closed. What was meant to stop migration led to an explosion in numbers. Between 1973 and 1981, the Surinamese population in the Netherlands shot up from 39,000 to 145,000. The policy that was supposed to reduce migration actually triggered it. The UK saw a similar story in the 1960s. Back then, citizens of Commonwealth nations could settle freely in the UK. But as concerns over unlimited immigration grew, the UK passed the Commonwealth Immigrants Act. But what happened next? As soon as rumors spread about the act, migration skyrocketed. People rushed to the UK to beat the ban. Therefore, migration from India quadrupled. Migration from Pakistan increased tenfold, and Caribbean migration rose by 400%. Even the US has faced the same pattern. In 1986, they passed the Immigration Reform and Control Act, hoping to stop illegal immigration. But instead of solving the problem, these tougher policies actually changed the pattern of migration. What was once temporary labor migration became permanent, with families settling in the US. By the 1990s, temporary labor migration had given way to a settled population of over 11 million Mexican immigrants in the US. So, why does this happen? Why do tougher immigration controls often backfire? To understand, we need to look at 4 basic mechanisms explaining why immigration restrictions often fail. 2 of these mechanisms played a crucial role in post-Brexit immigration. First, there is the waterbed effect. When you press one side of a waterbed, the other side rises. Migration works the same way. Restrict one pathway, and migrants find another. For example, when France, Belgium, and the Netherlands imposed restrictions on Moroccan migrants in the 1980s, many Moroccans redirected their migration to Spain and Italy, where it was easier to enter. The same happened after the EU introduced tougher measures aimed at curbing migration from South Asia and West Africa. Migrants just found new routes. But what happens when all these routes get blocked? When legal pathways are closed, migrants often seek alternative means, such as overstaying visas or relying on smugglers to cross borders. In the 1970s, when the US closed its legal labor migration channels, migrants turned to family reunification visas, creating chain migration. Similarly, after European guest worker programs ended, many migrants from North Africa and Turkey found ways to bring their families through illegal channels. Thus, instead of stopping migration, immigration restrictions just push migrants to riskier and illegal methods. But there's a more crucial effect, the now or never effect. Imagine you're considering moving abroad, but you're not sure whether to take the leap. Perhaps you're weighing the costs or waiting for the right moment. Then, suddenly, the government announces stricter border controls. This forces a decision. Move now, even if the timing isn't ideal, or risk losing the chance forever. This fear and sense of urgency often makes temporary immigrants stay. This is exactly what happened in the UK Commonwealth case. In the 1960s, when the UK tried to close the borders, many citizens of the Commonwealth left their countries to make the trip to the UK when it was still possible. While migration has largely become a permanent phenomenon today, it wasn't always this way. Migration used to be a back-and-forth movement between their home and host countries. This system allowed people to work abroad temporarily, save money, and return home to their families or communities, often contributing to their local economies. This is similar to the Spain-Morocco migration dynamic. For much of the 20th century, Moroccan workers regularly traveled to Spain for seasonal agricultural work. This form of circular migration was beneficial to both sides. Spanish employers had access to labor for specific periods, and Moroccan workers could earn money abroad and return home when the season ended. However, in the 1990s, Spain implemented stricter border controls and immigration policies. Faced with new restrictions and the risk of being unable to re-enter Spain, many Moroccan workers opted to stay permanently. They brought their families and settled in Spanish cities, turning what had been a temporary circular process into permanent migration. As of now, the European Union's might be the biggest circular migration network in the world. The EU's principle of free movement allows citizens to live and work in any member state without significant restrictions. Rather than settling permanently, many migrants engage in circular migration. As a result, the EU's open borders have not led to significant permanent migration, but have instead supported a fluid, temporary workforce that benefits both sending and receiving countries. Now let's bring this full circle with Brexit. When the UK voted to leave the EU, one of the key promises was to reduce immigration. But what happened instead? Brexit didn't lead to fewer migrants, it led to more. Why? Well, many EU migrants, especially from Eastern Europe, who had been circular migrants, coming to the UK for work and returning home, decided to stay. The uncertainty about post-Brexit migration restrictions created a sense of urgency. Migrate now or risk missing the opportunity forever. By June 2020, over 609,000 Romanians and 118,000 Bulgarians applied to the EU settlement scheme, far exceeding previous estimates of the Eastern European population in the UK. And here's the kicker. The UK's reliance on migrant labor only became clearer after Brexit. In 2021, industries like transportation, agriculture, and retail faced severe worker shortages. The UK used to rely on Eastern European workers, but Brexit caused labor shortages, leading to empty supermarket shelves. To fill these gaps, the government issued 34,532 seasonal worker visas in 2022, a massive increase from just 2,493 in 2019. Yet, Brexit succeeded in one thing. Migration from EU nations has decreased since Brexit. The current trend suggests that Brexit has stopped the free movement of people into the UK. However, this decline was offset by a sharp rise in migration from non-EU countries. According to the British Migration Observatory, non-EU net migration climbed from 190,000 in 2019 to 845,000 by mid-2024, driven by increased demand for workers in healthcare, social care, and education, as well as a surge in international students. Brexit may have curbed EU migration, but it opened the door wider for migrants from outside Europe. So, the next time you hear about stricter immigration policies, remember the lessons of Suriname, the UK, and the US. History shows us that walls and restrictions aren't the answer. The real solution lies in understanding the forces driving migration and designing policies that work with those forces, not against them. What do you think? Can immigration really be controlled with stricter policies, or is it time for a different approach? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more science-backed insights into real-world problems.